Hi folks, welcome to the next edition of Serverless Craic. It's me, Dave Anderson. I'm a technical fellow at Bizarre Voice and author and contributor at the Serverless Edge.
Mark McCann, architect at Globalization Partners and author and contributor at the Serverless Edge.
Hey everyone, Michael O'Reilly, software architect with Globalization Partners and contributor with the Serverless Edge. Hello.
So how are we doing?
Oh, good.
We thought we were sitting to have a conversation there, and one of the things that we've talked a lot about is clarity of purpose.
Yeah.
And for many teams, trying to figure out why you're building, what you're building is such a good question to ask. And you find out, well, I've certainly found in my career, most teams don't really understand why they're building what they're building. Sometimes it's known by somebody, but rarely the team. And when you look at some of the models around kind of creating software, one of the great ones I think is the British Design Council. They have the double diamond, and on the left is discover, and on the right is delivery. So discovery and delivery. We always talk about delivery. We obsess about it. We very rarely do product well or discovery well. And good product is really about discovery. And one of the people who've nailed this best is probably Melissa Perry in her book, The Build Trap. She talks about people just blindly building backlogs. Without naming any names, I'm sure you both are familiar with that pattern.
Oh yes,
it happens everywhere.
It happens everywhere, and it's comfortable for teams, right? They're in their groove, and they just knock out another widget or another ticket or another feature without thinking about
easy
the impact and who's it actually for, and did it actually make a difference? So I think we've seen that throughout our careers that you can fall into that that build trap, as Melissa sort of articulates it. It's hey, gets the JIRA tickets closed, right? Gets the storage complete, gets the sprint done, and hey, move on, right? So it's I think in today's world, everyone, especially now, everyone's looking for a bit more purpose and a bit more meaning to their work. So which takes us back to discovery and really understanding what are the real impactful things you could be working on.
And there's a million frameworks to talk about this, but I find people generally don't know what the whole move from project to product was supposed to fix this, but I don't think it has, because there's loads of product managers who just have people building like Billio, which is okay, but we build the wrong thing. One of the great sayings is, what was it? Build the thing right, build the right thing, build it quickly. We're good at building quickly. We're good at building the thing right, but we're not very good at building the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's what breaks companies sometimes, building the wrong thing. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah, and I think especially with like the work we've all been doing for a number of years is streamlining development processes and building high performance teams. We ourselves can fall into that trap as well. Here's all these patterns. Here's this automation that you can leverage. Here, just go hit that button, away you go. But you need to make sure you always take a step back and ask, what's it for? Who's it for? And what impact it's going to have, right?
Because if you find it, if you don't understand the impact that you're trying to have, then how can you actually do the right thing? How can you build the right thing?
Yeah.
How do you, what does success look like? What are the conversations that you're having around potential approaches and ways to kind of achieve that success? It all ties back to data and metrics and really understanding the problem that you're trying to solve. And if you're not doing that, and through all the world, and we're like all the good intent, there's lots of good teams and good engineers and whatever, but how can they be building the right thing if they don't understand, what success is, or what what is the problem we're actually trying to solve, and what are our options? So yeah, I think it's a challenging thing to be able to do really well, and I do think a lot of the frameworks that we do talk about, like the around mindset and helping you think in a certain way, not necessarily coming up with them there and then, but how to think about it and what you need to actually solve for it, right? So
yeah, so, I think one of the big things we very much lean heavily on is it's a team activity. It's not something that is handed down to you. Here's your purpose and here's your North Star. You want to make it a facilitated, collaborative endeavor, so that everyone is a stakeholder and everyone's opinion is heard, and they all have a shared understanding of what their purpose is. I think that's super powerful, and we're seeing that a lot, especially with remote working, it's really easy to get everybody on a Zoom call, fire up a Miro board or collaborative board, and work together to figure out, well, what is our North Star, what is our purpose, who are our users, what are their needs, and that's super powerful because it gets everyone on the same page and helps them all understand what they're doing.
It's a leadership thing too, because I think if you can represent your work in terms of the numbers and the impact that you're having, you can't help but make good decisions.
Yeah.
So like if you know what your North Star kind of measure is, right, and how that ties to the kind of medium and long-term business goals and the impact it's having on those, and then being able to track that back to what you're doing from a work perspective, it just makes things way more easy. It takes guessing out of the thing. Now you're experimenting, and again, other thing we talk about is around rapid delivery, moving fast, but you can only do that when you know the game you're in and the game you're playing. And I know that's part of the playbook is what is your game and how are you working around it. So for me, it's a leadership quality. It helps you prioritize the right things. It helps you make good decisions. We should, it's something we should be doing.
Yeah, and like in the book, we've got our value flywheel, and the first phase is that clarity of purpose, and the persona we base that on is the leader, like the CEO. Someone needs to drive the purpose, and one of the things we've found super helpful for that, which is still not super well understood, is the North Star framework from Amplitude. We discovered that a few years ago and collectively blew our minds and been using it ever since. And it's a real neat framework. One of the things I think is nicest about it is the idea of leading and lagging metrics. And we've been talking about that for ages, even through the 4 disciplines of execution was our first version of that. Just that idea of understanding what your lead and lag metrics, and then how you build the work into a North Star metric and then a long-term goal. Any thoughts on that? Like, is that something we've been using quite a lot?
Yeah, it's a great framework, and the Amplitude and John Cutler and all those folks have done a fantastic job in making it consumable and making it really usable. So we've been leveraging that heavily, and it's a simple framework that people can get, and even in an hour-long session, you can get through quite a lot, and teams can really share and collaborate. And I think the online collaboration tools have helped make this a lot easier. It's you don't need to be physically present anymore; you can just do it online, remote, which is great. But yeah, it's been great, and we tailored a little bit we had a bit of sort of almost like pre-Wordly mapping to it as well around what's your scope, what's your purpose, who are your users, what are their needs, is almost setting the context to lead into the North Star, so that it gets everybody back on the same page. But I forgot about that user. Forgot we do this thing for these people, and they have these needs. So it helps get them all on the same page around setting the context and making sure they have situational awareness. But yeah, the North Star is great. And like we often joke, what we're aiming for here is that you can walk around or you can ping somebody and say, hey, what are you working on? And how's it related to your North Star? And they should have a sort of coherent answer. And I think one of the big things about this is and we noticed this with Wordly mapping as well, it invites challenge. You're not challenging a person, you're not challenging a team, you're starting to have a conversation about the North Star metrics and the input metrics and the KPIs and the work aligned to that. You're not challenging a person. So again, it invites that safe space for that challenge to happen, which is great.
Yeah, I mean the playbook itself is kind of well written. If you're experienced in software or working in product, you'll pick it up right and quick. I definitely like the lag and lead measures concept is really good. In terms of the exercise in itself is you coming up with those lead measures, how to influence the lag measure that can't be a vanity metric. I think you said earlier in the call, development teams can't keep themselves busy sometimes chasing vanity metrics. Gamification of vanity metrics, it's fun, it's good, but actual fact, really what you want is, what's my lead measures, what are the things that I have can have impact on to have that overall impact on the business success, which is obviously the lagging measure. So it's definitely worth a read. Really quick thing to get through, and there's lots of different ways to run it. To your point, Mark, we've kind of got our own flavor of it, but yeah, you can adapt it to almost anything. It's just a really good way of. I love the traceability of the North Star, right from the business. You can go from the business metrics back, or you can go from the work to the business metrics. That's what I think that's the real power of it.
You go both directions.
And then you can also cascade them into teams as well. So you might have an overall organizational North Star, and then each team could have their own North Star, and then it will align to the broader organizational North Star as well, which is very powerful.
Advanced level stuff. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's good one as well about the lead metrics. One I like about the framework itself is it gives you all these wee hints about what makes a good metric, and clearly stuff like story points is not. I mean, I did 1,000 story points this week. Woohoo! It's nonsense. So I think there's nice about different types of transactional and activation and user metrics and stuff.
Yeah.
It's and what value means and stuff. It's great to make you think. I mean, that's a lot of that stuff is second nature to good product people, but for anyone else, it's hard to quantify those. Like you really need to think deeply about those.
Yeah, and you need to tailor it a little bit for engineering teams as well that aren't maybe as product facing as some of the true product teams. So you need to sometimes tailor some of the conversations and steer them in that direction.
What about level of detail? Do you keep it at a fairly high level? Because I know sometimes some product people I work with, they open up Miro board and you've got like 300 stickies all of a sudden. People just go super, super deep. Have you been successful in keeping it at a nice level where it sort of fits in your head, as they say?
I think that is a hard thing. The North Star itself primarily is a collaboration exercise, and it's a mindset shift, and so it's a really good way of discussing your priorities and really getting into what you're trying to achieve and accomplish. That's it. That's the North Star first and foremost. I think really what you got to work from then is, what are you taking from it? So we've had good thinking exercises. We like the structure, and then you can apply that structure to what you do you can go back. So like we ruthlessly kind of prioritize and, what can we measure and what are the things you got access to, and we use that. So it does take a bit of work to kind of narrow in, but you gotta have the right people in the room, I think, in order to be able to do that as well. So your business people, and
well, it's actually
you can go deep as well and get lots of input metrics, and then you take a second pass at it and you extract the essence of it to make it more consumable and more actionable.
Yeah,
and one thing as well, it is really about the conversation. It's not a who can get the most stickies on the board competition. It's actually about the conversation and the group of people, which is important. So then, just before we close out, anybody like around the topic of clarity of purpose, do you want to fire a couple of names or a couple of books or a couple of things worth looking at? Who wants to go first?
I guess
rapidly think.
You mentioned Melissa Perry, who was skipping the build traps, and the list, anything by Marty Kagan is great. And then the Amplitude guy, John Cutler, they're just prolific and they're fantastic at sharing. Widely.
Yeah, that's who I would have said. Like, Marty Kagan does cracking blogs on a topic, and his thinking is really spot on. Melissa Perry she does lots of good training and stuff as well. I think you mentioned the book earlier, Escaping the Build Trap, and I think Marty Kagan's Inspired book, isn't that right? I think that's one of the last ones he put out. And obviously John Cutler on social media is very active and very good to kind of feel in behind and follow, and very interactive online as well, which is great. So.
Yeah. And also our favorite Simon Sinek with Start With Why is brilliant, and he's Golden Circle. He's got some great stuff around kind of finding your why. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, it wouldn't go mental. I think there's a small number of people who are very good at it. It's not something where there's a ton of material. There's a small number of people who are really kind of thought leaders in this space. But that's the crack anyway for clarity of purpose. So please give us a follow on at Serverless Age on Twitter, and look us up on the serverlessage.com for the blog, and also on YouTube. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.